This is an interesting story. Apparently, the teachers, administrators, the leadership of Bogan High School was attempting to turn the high school into a Hindu temple.
Oh, really? What could go wrong?
A student who describes herself as a very strong Christian basketball player at Bogan, or I think formerly of Bogan now, Mariah Green, said she was there was an attempt made to force her to participate in Hindu rituals inside the school. A woman who was teaching her meditation in mandated quiet time, quote unquote, asked her to bow to an image of a foreign deity she did not recognize. The woman teaching the meditation said it would help her internalize the mantras and bring her to Zen. She said, did Mariah Green, I'm in school right now. Why are we learning how to meditate in this way? I just knew it wasn't right, so that's what made me take the initiative and go home to tell my parents and auntie, who was my pastor at the time, that I didn't feel comfortable with what they were enforcing on me in school. The only time I kneel was when I was at the altar at church when I'm praying and I'm kneeling down for God because that's the way that we were taught, but not the kneeling to that idol. It was inappropriate. She's not commenting on the Hindu religion. She's just saying that's not my faith, basically. She also said the students were informed by the instructor that the mantras were quote unquote meaningless words, but this young lady taking some initiative, she did some research on the mantras and found they were actually the names of Hindu gods. So it wasn't meaningless. It was essentially attempting to compel a student to practice Hindu when she is a Christian. Boy, all this talk about religious zealotry from the right. Huh. Bogan High School, CPS. Remarkable. For more on this story, pleased to be joined by Judith Kott, who's a senior associate attorney at Mauck and Baker, the law firm that represented Mariah Green in this case against CPS. Judith Kott, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Sure. I'm glad to be here.
So, fill in the blanks for us in terms of anything else that we should know about this case. And the way that Mariah has described it, I'm a little unclear. Is this a teacher? Is this some sort of volunteer? Well, give us some more detail here to fill in the picture.
Yeah, I'd be glad to do that. We filed a lawsuit in February of this year, so anybody that's interested in finding out more details can find it on our website, which is Mauck, M-A-U-C-K, Baker.com, under the blog section. Basically what happened is the David Lynch Foundation brought a proposal to the University of Chicago Urban Lab to run a research project involving the operation of quiet time and the TM program, which is Transcendental Meditation, into Chicago public schools. So this happened, and they agreed to cooperate and coordinate with each other.
David Lynch. Sorry to interrupt, but David Lynch, like David Lynch, the director, like that.
Yeah,
David Lynch
Foundation.
Yeah, but I mean that's the David Lynch we're talking about.
Correct.
Okay.
So they all cooperated according to our complaint that we filed on Mariah's behalf in order to implement this TM/quiet time program into 8 CPS schools. And Bogan High School happened to be one of them. So Mariah Green, she transferred from a charter school, and I believe she was 16 at the time when she came to Bogan High School. And she came to Bogan because she's a basketball player at the time, and they offered a good program. So when she came there, she knew that she had to keep her grades up, and she was very conscientious and wanted to do so. So she was very confused when she and about 3 or 4 other students were led into a darkened room. There was a woman with a headdress on, and she was chanting Sanskrit words. If you go to the complaint, we indicate what those words actually were, which was inviting Hindu deities into the room. So there was a table, there was an image of a Guru Dev, and she was asked to kneel in front of it. and she made the excuse that her knee hurt so that she would get out of it. There was about 3 days of training, so-called training for this transcendental meditation. She went home and told her mother and her auntie, and they told her, you know, you're not going to kneel, and she knew that because she's a Christian. So then the other aspect of this is there's a quiet time program that she was supposed to remember the mantra that was whispered into her ear and meditate on it 15 minutes a day, 2 periods a day, in her 2nd period and her 7th period. I believe one of the classes was her art class. So there would be a voice on the intercom that says, okay, it's quiet time, clear your desk, get quiet. So students were supposed to, there was a control group in this research project, and there were people that were to meditate on their mantra. And the idea behind this is they were trying to target violence in particular Chicago public schools, and they thought that this particular program would be beneficial for students. But we maintain in the complaint it wasn't like a regular meditation, you know, like just close your eyes, take some deep breaths, think of something peaceful. This was actually very controlled. It was a captive audience of minor students, and we alleged that they were coerced.
So this class, okay, so this program called Quiet Time, was it an actual class? Like, or was it a first period class, 2nd period? Was this an extra curricular activity, or did they make every student at Bogan go to quiet time?
They made every student go into quiet time. It was incorporated into their bell schedule for 2nd period and for 7th period. So it was definitely part of the instructional time, even though they were not allowed, to even work on art during her art class or, do homework or anything like that. They were to close their eyes, meditate on their mantra, and that was considered to be, quote, instructional time.
And so this was, right, so it wasn't volunteer. And is, again, who's leading the class? Is it a teacher, or is it somebody from the David Lynch Foundation? Is it somebody who used to write Twin Peaks? I mean, who's there? Who's in front of the class?
Sometimes it was someone from the David Lynch Foundation. They hired transcendental meditation teachers, but sometimes it was a CPS teacher. And so we maintained that the CPS teachers were all trained in transcendental meditation as well.
When mom, did mom go to the school and say, "What are you doing?" I mean, I'm fine. I've nothing. It's like I have nothing against people who practice the Hindu faith, but that's not my daughter's faith, and you're compelling her to do. What are you doing?
Yes, actually, her auntie, she wrote a letter to CPS. She followed up and expressed the fact that this was not right. As we maintain in our complaint, it was a violation of the Establishment Clause and the Free Exercise Clause. This was government trying to push one religion on another. Again, this is not anything against Hindu, except for the fact that it did not belong in a public school.
Right.
Well, you mentioned, too, that Bogan was one of 8 schools. What other high schools are offering quiet time?
Well, it's been discontinued as of 2020, so the program no longer exists. And, I cannot tell you exactly all the other schools. I don't remember them off the top of my head, but there were 8 southwest suburbs schools that were implementing quiet time.
Did you get was there any response from the David Lynch Foundation? Was perhaps something lost in translation, that this was supposed to be voluntary, and we were not intended to being a party to trying to push this on kids. It was just an opportunity or something like that. Did anything potentially get lost in translation?
No, they definitely, I believe, they insisted that the 3-day training program be, continued along with the quiet time. So the defendant's position was that the parents were told through an opt-out form, which, Mariah maintains that her mother never received that opt-out form. And we do represent 2 other students, one which settled and another which is pending. And both of them also said their parents did not receive any opt-out form.
Yeah, I mean, this would be like, right, the obvious, like, pick a religion, any religion. If you force every kid to recite the Our Father or the Apostolic Creed, I mean, you think there'd be any problems? You think the ACLU would be on the case? Of course they would. I mean, it's just bizarre. This wasn't, just to be clear, this wasn't like a comparative religions unit, right? Where like that we're going to look at Hinduism, we're going to look at Christianity, Judaism, the world religions, and get a better understanding, like an introductory understanding of some of the commonalities and distinctions.
Absolutely not. In fact, Mariah indicated in several of the interviews that she had already done that she felt confused, she felt scared, she felt alone, angry. She made her voice heard to the teachers. She looked up the mantra herself on the internet to find out what it was. She was not at all told that this was some sort of part of a comparative religion class. She didn't know what was going on. It made her feel very upset. It did the opposite effect of what meditation is supposed to do.
And CPS, I mean, they chose to litigate this or they chose to settle it?
This is what's called an offer of judgment. The federal rules, if the defendant approach the plaintiff with what is called an offer of judgment, if the plaintiff accepts it, then that is a public record, opposed to the other case we had, which is a settlement conference where we can't discuss any part of the settlement. But because it's an offer of judgment that they came to us with, we are absolutely allowed to discuss it and explain, what occurred.
And so what occurred?
What occurred is that basically David Lynch Foundation decided to pay $75,000, as did the Board of Education of the City of Chicago, $75,000, for a total of $150,000 to Mariah Green's case.
Judith Kott, Senior Associate Attorney, Mauck and Baker, Mauck, M-A-U-C-K, Baker.com, if you want to go look up the complaint and get all the details. But I think you provided a nice summary. Judith Kott, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you. And she joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
It's news, opinion, insight. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Bettenhausen Mobility is the fastest growing authorized Braun Ability dealer serving the Chicagoland area. Bettenhausen offers a complete line